If you are in any way involved with YouTube, then you know who Shane Dawson is. Not only has he been on the platform for over a decade, but he's also been one of the most subscribed to channels for the majority of that time, amassing over 20 million subscribers to date. Despite that, the story of Shane Dawson is not a straightforward one, nor is it an entirely positive one either. Throughout his time on YouTube, he has faced controversy after controversy as he's tried to move away from his past problematic behavior and offensive content.
If you've been watching me for a while, then you know that I have done a lot of things in my past that I hate.
The thing is, I feel like online a lot of people, they'll just kind of, start seeing a lot of negative things about a person and start looking at things from so many years ago.
The word of the day is...
And I realized, Shane, you can't go and say shit like that and just throw it out there, because there are repercussions and people actually have feelings.
This is insane. This is insane. This woman is...
The demonization of psychopathy and sociopathy was just horrific in that entire series. And he used it as this horror film cliche.
That is terrifying.
Yeah, that's hence the, that feeling.
It's more in the realm of cancel culture. If I just follow Shane around and every single time he makes a video, guys, he's back, look.
I hope that you can see that and know that it's never too late to address it and to change.
This is part 3 of a series looking at the impact of drama and commentary channels. Part 1 looked at some of the problems within this kind of content, and part 2 looked at Eugenia Cooney. Today's video will be taking a look at the cancellation of Shane Dawson. We'll be looking at whether this was a situation where the influence of drama channels was actually a positive thing, as well as discussing whether Shane should be deplatformed. Before we move on and talk about Shane Dawson though, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Casetify. I've been using Casetify for a while now, and I honestly cannot recommend a better phone case. Their Chi-Tech 2.0 technology is drop tested for falls of up to 9.8 feet, which thank God, because it has saved my phone from so many drops, because let's face it, I'm just a really clumsy human being. And so I'm not joking about how good these cases are, let me just show you. I'm currently using one of their Impact cases, which as you can see, despite being one of the most protected cases you can get, is extremely slim and also very pretty color. Anyway, here's my phone so you can see it is not broken in any way. That's the time. Yes, I am recording very late, leave me alone. And now let's see it in action. We're all good. Everything's working fine. All put together and lovely. No breaks, no nothing. They also come in a ton of designs, so if you want to get a new phone case for yourself, or you maybe want to get one for somebody for Christmas, because that's coming up pretty soon, you can pick the perfect case to fit pretty much any style. And they also have custom cases as well, which you can put your name or something else on. Here's mine that says Alien, which you already saw. That is a custom one. Here's another custom one I have that says Skov, and this isn't a custom one, it's one of their already made designs, but I absolutely love it. I think it's so cool. And actually this one is a compostable case as well. But even if you're not getting a compostable one, their new Impact and Ultra Impact cases are made of 65% recycled and plant-based materials, while also being compatible with 5G and wireless charging. And my absolute favorite part of these cases is that they come with an antimicrobial coating which kills up to 99% of bacteria, as well as being 100% non-toxic and non-hazardous. So again, if you want to get a case for yourself, or you want to get one as a Christmas present for somebody, then you can go to casetify.com/Vangelina to get 15% off. Thank you so much, Casetify, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's talk about Shane Dawson. Over the years, Shane has experimented with a lot of different types of content, and it only makes sense since he's been around for over 13 years, an amount of time which most creators haven't managed to stick around for. For the most part, the only ones who have been able to are the ones who've been able to adapt their content and change what they do in order to stay relevant and keep their audience interested. As it stands now, Shane is known as somebody who makes documentary-style videos, as well as videos about the paranormal and conspiracy theories. Before this though, he made things like skits and challenge videos, and even had a series that he wasn't actually in. This was a sort of news series where other people would be the ones reporting, but it was on Shane's channel. It wasn't very successful, and it was a very weird period of time, so let's just move on from that. Now, at first glance, most of these things seem pretty harmless, But several years into Shane's online career, people started to notice some things that were off about his earliest videos. Mainly, people noticed that a lot of his older videos and skits relied heavily on edgy humor. Edgy in this case meaning it relied a lot on homophobia, sexism, violence, and being inappropriate towards children. Now clearly, when people began picking up on this, Shane received a lot of backlash for his previous videos, which resulted in him deleting them and making an apology. Some accepted this, but many still weren't happy, saying that either his apology was insincere or it wasn't good enough, and every so often another wave of hate would hit Shane. In the end though, most people would either forget or choose to forgive, and Shane would move on with making his videos about whatever it was he was making that day, be it him creating a makeup line with Jeffree Star, talking about Chuck E. Cheese conspiracies, or just eating weird food at home. However, more recently, Shane has been involved with so much controversy that it's been almost impossible for him to move past the backlash of his previous videos. As Shane was involved with Dramageddon, something that we will talk about more later, he was put at the center of drama, and as a result, more and more people learned about his older videos and were appalled by them. And then, he was cancelled. This begs the question, why did his cancellation happen so many years after these videos were actually made? Maybe it has something to do with Shane's ever-changing content. There have been so many eras of Shane that people have found him at specific points of his career thinking those were the kind of videos he only ever made. Many didn't know about his previous problematic content until much later. But eventually, something odd would always come up about his content, either past or present, that would change their opinions on him.
Shane Dawson's an interesting one, because I didn't watch his content when he first started out on YouTube. Like, I wasn't one of his fans then. I actually found him around the time he started doing like his conspiracy theory videos and stuff like that, and I just thought they were like a really silly bit of fun, and I had absolutely no idea about his past at all. So I had no idea about any of the like racially insensitive stuff he'd done or any of his stuff on his podcast, none of that. So all I saw was this really like quite a nice seeming man on camera sharing some what I thought were kind of innocent, silly conspiracy theories.
I used to like Shane's content, not the racist stuff. I came in long after that, but I came in around the time he was melting Barbies in the microwave and stuff. And I liked, I don't know, I liked his sense of humor, and then I saw all of this very, very disgusting stuff, particularly about children.
Twerk for us.
Oh,
here we go. She's moving furniture.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, now tell her to show herself.
Stop it, Shane.
Oh my God. I just like, I'm not one that's like, oh my God, I can't, but no. But like this, everything that I've heard and seen in Shane's like list of transgressions just makes me sick. His return is aggravating. Yeah, not a Shane Dawson fan at this point.
I remember when some of this stuff first came up, it was it was the cat thing, I think.
So people went back into a very old episode of Shane's podcast and found this clip and tried to dig it up and, you know, make him look bad.
And I kept going, like, all over the cat.
No, you did not.
I've apologized many times for all the dumb shit I've said in videos and podcasts over the years. I've learned my lesson over and over again. That story was fake and was based on a dumb, awful sketch idea I had years ago that I never made. Thank God. And when the opportunity came up for a funny moment in the podcast, I told it as if it was a real story, which was disgusting and very, very dumb.
And I thought like, oh, it's really silly that this has been brought up because he addressed it and he showed the whole clip. And I was like, oh, okay, that's clearly a joke. That's fine, whatever. Like, I can't believe people are mad about this. And then as time went on and I started to see I felt a lot of the stuff in his Jake Paul series was quite exploitative, and it was definitely damaging to, I guess, just like the mental health community in general and people who struggle with certain issues. Like the demonization of psychopathy and sociopathy was just horrific in that entire series. And he used it as this like horror film cliche rather than like an actual mental health condition that people live with and deal with.
That is terrifying.
Yeah, that's hence the like that feeling. Like, ugh.
So I had issues with that, and then his series with Eugenia, I felt was just bizarre to watch, because it was clearly like very pandering to her, and I didn't feel like it was helping the audience in any way. I don't know. I find a lot of his videos quite self-indulgent, and then when it came to the Jeffree Star stuff, I just wasn't interested, so I didn't watch any of them. And then when all the criticisms came out again, like just before he got like cancelled or whatever, I think that was the first time I realized just how much dodgy stuff he'd done.
Another potential reason for why Shane was able to keep going for so long despite his history is because it's only in recent years that public opinion is beginning to shift in regards to what's okay and what's not when it comes to jokes and online content.
Personally, I think that Shane Dawson's career, in the way that it's kind of like spun over the years, is quite interesting in terms of how the social and political climate has changed significantly. When I used to watch Shane Dawson, I was a huge Shane Dawson fan. I've got no problem saying that. When I used to watch Shane Dawson, a lot of the things that he was getting away with, a lot of other content creators were getting away with, and a lot of other POC content creators were getting away with it, and a lot of other Black content creators are getting away with it. And it's only now, as the socio-political structure has changed and a lot more of this call out and cancel culture has been happening, that people seem to have a problem with it. I think about people such as Trey Melvin with his character Watermelon Drea, who is a Black archetype character. When I think about the stuff that, you know, Shane Dawson did with Shauna, his friend.
Thank you for calling Boost Mobile. This Watermelon Drea speaking. How may I assist you?
I think about Todrick Hall and some of the content it is that Todrick Hall has done, where he did like, you know, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or something. And I think in that clip he had like, you know, one of them was called Crackhead, one of them was called Ashy, one of them was called Crusty, one of them was called Musty, and all of these kind of things, who were like supposed to be archetypes, negative stereotypes of Black people.
Well, I'm Snow White. What your name is?
I'm Ashy.
I'm Nappy. I'm Two. I'm Fruity, hey.
I'm Musty.
I'm Crusty. And I'm Dopey.
Black content creators were doing it, white content creators are doing it, but it seems to me that it's only the white content creators who are now suffering the repercussions of the world around them changing. Was it tasteless jokes? All of them were, across the board. But do I see a little bit of a hypocritical moment going on when we all knew that this was going on for so many years, and we're pinpointing the white content creators or people who have a closer proximity to white? I don't know.
It's true that at the time when Shane made these more controversial videos, they weren't really considered controversial. Many creators were doing similar things and viewers loved it. Few people were calling out this kind of behavior because many didn't see an issue with it, and therefore creators were being rewarded for making these kinds of jokes with likes, views, and engagement. This is not to say that it is the viewer's fault, nor is it to say that we should excuse anybody for making problematic content simply because they didn't see a problem with it at the time or because they were encouraged to do it. But as unfortunate as it is, this was the ecosystem of YouTube at the time. Even Jenna Marbles, a creator who is held up as the golden standard of a YouTuber, somebody who's unproblematic, was making similar videos at the time, making offensive jokes and skits.
It's Nicki Minaj.
Nicki mad, Nicki smash.
Obviously, when I think like some of those videos were being made, and some of like the more, you know, I guess like some of the more stuff that like people are like criticizing and all that, it's kind of like at the time, like, you know, about like 10 years ago or whatever that was, it's just kind of like the internet was so different then. And like, of course it doesn't make like those kind of things like right to say or whatever, but it's kind of like, you know, at the time when you're seeing so many other people making similar kind of content, and at the time, there's a lot of people, even in like your own audience, that are saying like they love the content and they think it's funny and they don't seem to see a problem with it. Then I just kind of think it's like important to remember that for that person, like they probably also just don't really see anything like bad that they're doing, because at the time that's just kind of how the world was. And, you know, obviously like now, I guess like the world is you know, I guess kind of like realizing certain things and how certain things could be like offensive to a lot of people. But I think like with time, when like so many people like weren't really realizing that stuff, and so many people were making those kind of jokes, like a lot of people kind of did just like view it as like funny, even though like, you know, maybe it wasn't. But it's just kind of like, you know, at the time so many people are like almost encouraging that kind of content and aren't saying it shouldn't be a thing. So that's another reason I definitely don't think that that kind of thing should be used against somebody forever.
So if so many creators were making similar content, then why is Shane the one who's receiving the most backlash? There are many different perspectives on this question. Some would say that although many creators were making offensive jokes on YouTube, that Shane's were at a different level. They would say that the offensive jokes in his videos occurred more frequently and that they were far beyond what anybody else was doing. Similarly, the larger amount of backlash could be because he just has a bigger channel than most other creators, both then and now. Others would argue that he was simply chosen to be the person who would be made an example of. Times have changed and we needed to showcase that this kind of behaviour is not going to be tolerated, and he's who they decided to showcase it with. Or could it be that Shane Dawson was unable to give an appropriate response to his controversies?
We have to also remember the magnitude of the amount of stuff it is that Shane Dawson was doing. It wasn't just one thing, there were several things. But if we were to take it instant by instance and we were to put Shane Dawson next to the likes of Jenna Marbles, I personally feel that because Jenna Marbles was able to get ahead of her drama is the only reason why people view her in a much nicer way than Shane Dawson. Because he wasn't able to get ahead of it, or he didn't care to get ahead of it, if that makes any sense. So I feel like that plays a huge part in stuff. But do I think that he's getting treated worse than everybody else? Probably, and probably because he's the biggest content creator. And I think when stuff like this happens, the viewers, onlookers just want to have somebody held accountable and made an example of. And sometimes when you make an example of somebody, you're not treating them as equally as you're treating everybody else. And I feel like a part of it is also Shane Dawson's response, because Shane Dawson's response was always like, you know, this happens. I remember this tweet of his that says, this happens every year. Every year I get cancelled, you know, or every 5 years some more drama happens and I get cancelled. And it's like his nonchalant attitude towards it when there was genuine people who were upset about it. So I feel like that kind of had a huge part to play. Do I think that he deserved everything? To a certain degree, yes. Only purely because I think he's a little bit more calculated than people give him credit for. Yeah, he's very calculated.
This is one of the arguments that's been made about Shane Dawson over and over again in recent years. Even if he claims to have changed and moved past his old content, he's not as nice as he says he is. There was a period of his online career where he was considered a really nice guy and was often called an empath by both himself and others. This idea was greatly pushed by the videos he would make showcasing the better sides of controversial YouTubers like Tana Mojo and Jeffree Star. Because of these videos, people saw him as somebody who just wanted to see the best in people, and by extension, that made him a good person too. Then, what's known as the third Dramageddon happened. We won't go into the full details of Dramageddon because there's just so much that goes into it, but for the people who are unaware, here's a brief rundown. Tati Westbrook and James Charles were both beauty influencers who were close friends, with Tati being a mentor to James as well. In 2019, Tati posted a video titled Bye Sister, where she claimed that, to put it kind of simply, James was an awful person. Then, somehow, Jeffree Star got involved, and later, James Charles cleared his name in his own video. So far, Shane himself doesn't seem to be involved, but these were only the events of Dramageddon 2. During the third instance of this, Tati made another video claiming that Shane had encouraged her to do her Bye Sister video, and basically said that Shane and Jeffree were the masterminds behind the plot to destroy James Charles. As a result, Shane had his now infamous Instagram Live.
This is insane. This is insane. This woman is a I'm gonna wait till as many people get in here as...
I believe that Tati was telling the truth about everything. I believe that she definitely went along with the story that people told her, and she also had some experiences that made her feel that these things about James may have been true. 100%. I think that when James quote unquote got exonerated, which I don't know how that happened, if I'm perfectly honest, but when he got exonerated by basically calling Jeffree Star's bluff, I think that Tati Westbrook felt as if she was left. Essentially, the idea that I get is that Tati Westbrook was told by Jeffree and Shane Dawson, hey, if you make this video, we're behind you 100%. She made the video. Shane Dawson was nowhere to be seen. And Jeffree Star made a video saying that he's never doing this again. So she was kind of left and fed to the wolves and left to fend for herself. And I think that then she realized that people who had her back, who were riding for justice in the same way that she was, didn't really have her back or was riding for justice. And then I think a part of her felt a little bit guilty about being a 30-something-year-old woman and, delivering, I guess, hand-delivering a certain level of hate towards somebody who is significantly younger than you. And I feel like the guilt of that probably made her feel bad. And that's the only reason that she, kind of walked back her stance a little bit and tried to turn the situation into somewhat of a positive.
After this series of events, people who once thought that Shane was a great person were now beginning to question whether it was all just for show, and those who had always thought it was an act felt vindicated in their beliefs. Of course, these aren't the only reasons that people doubt Shane's empath status. Other reasons are the many accounts of people saying that they had pretty negative interactions with Shane.
From my personal experience, something that happened to me with Shane Dawson is I think I'd sent him a message in regards to a video that I'd made about him back in like 2017, 2018, so a long time ago, and said, hey Shane, I made a video about this, definitely check it out, I've included you in it, right? And he sent me a message like a day or so later, talking to me about Peter Mon. Now, at the time, me and Peter Mon weren't cool, at all. And he was almost trying to say that Peter Mon's such a social climber, he's such a this, he's such a that. And it's I didn't ask for that information, but I think it was little seeds to say I'm on your side. I don't like him either. Do you get what I mean? I don't need to know that. That's the kind of calculated stuff. So when we heard the news story from Tati Westbrook that Shane Dawson had a huge hand to play in the way that Dramageddon 2 went down, and that he even asked if he could help make the thumbnail and help her produce it, edit it, whatever it was that she needed. And even said stuff like, yeah, well, if he jumps off a building, then that's his problem, when, faced with the idea that James might actually hurt himself. That didn't seem so far-fetched, because it was very catty. My experience of Shane has been catty behavior. And that's not the person he puts forward on social media. The person that we see on social media is, oh my God, guys, I'm such an empath. We all know the trope it is that he puts out to social media, but in person, that's not the person that he is. I also have friends of mine who have met him in person as well, who also say the same things. He's a lot more calculated, a lot more switched on than he likes to make people believe he is.
But despite all this, there are clearly people who still do think that Shane is a good person. Many of his in-person friends would say that he is kind, and would argue that lots of people have bad moments that can make you snap or act in a way you wouldn't normally, and that this doesn't necessarily make you a bad person.
Shane, actually knowing him, he's honestly one of the kindest and most genuine, most generous, sweet people that I've ever met.
Good person or not though, whatever you believe about Shane Dawson's current intentions, one thing about his past is undeniable. Many of his older videos were problematic and hugely offensive. And perhaps this is one of the times when drama videos on YouTube were useful, because it brought to light something that had been swept under the rug, not just for Shane, but for many creators at this time period.
If it wasn't for even drama channels and commentary channels and everything, I don't think I would have been aware of the extent of it. And so in that case, I'm grateful for the people talking about it, because there was a lot going on. And then that led me to doing my own research and going back and watching some of his old stuff and just basically being appalled by it, and going back and reading his books and again, just being appalled by them. So in that case, I think talking about the Shane Dawson stuff was important and good.
And then it felt like everything spiraled down, and then I got canceled, and then it felt like the end of the world, and I you know, everything felt like the worst thing ever for like months. Like it lasted months. And I think part of me was upset because I was like, I made so much growth and now I'm being canceled over things from the past. And that's not me anymore. But that forced me to really not just push things away and really face everything head on and realize that that was me and that is me. But I can learn from it. And I feel like I'm so happy it happened, so grateful that I got canceled.
But despite the potentially positive outcomes that can come from calling out behaviour like this, should we still be trying to cancel Shane Dawson? Many people feel that he should be deplatformed, either because they believe he shouldn't be forgiven for his past, or that his apologies weren't good enough, or because they simply think that he's still problematic today. Others, however, say that Shane Dawson has changed, and point out that he's clearly not making the same problematic content that he was back then. Shane Dawson himself also thinks that he's made a lot of positive changes and growth in his life, saying that he can't even connect to the person he once was.
I'm very disconnected from the person that I was in my early 20s. To a point where when I see that person, it makes me feel really sad and sick to my stomach. But some things I've learned over the last year and a half is I can't just pretend like that person didn't exist. So I've really come to peace with that. And also, and I don't want to get too much into this, but because I felt like I had made a lot of growth before I got canceled. The last 5 or 6 years in and out of therapy, dealing with stuff, I feel like I grew as a person. I feel like I learned a lot. I would never say or do any of those jokes, any of those things ever that I did back then.
So who should we listen to in this case? Should Shane Dawson and people like him be deplatformed? Or should we recognize the growth that someone has made, whether or not you believe that growth is a facade, and allow people to show us whether they have truly changed?
It gets to a point where, well, yes, I have criticism, but what am I to do? Am I supposed to be like, oh guys, let me give you my 2 cents? What, review his video about ghost hunting in a haunted city? That has nothing to do with anything. I mean, you know, it's been what, over 2 years? Like, I don't know. It's not my place to tell people don't be mad or whatever. It just gets to the point where I said my piece. I'm not gonna be the type of guy to be like, because I feel like it's more like in the realms of cancel culture. If I just follow Shane around and every single time he makes a video, guys, he's back, look, oh my gosh, he has way more likes than dislikes, guys. What are we doing? Let's rile up. Let's get him dislike bombed, you know? Wow, how brave. He's got comments enabled. He's hearting comments. He's reading the comments and there's not any bad ones I'm seeing. You know, that's not really what I'm about.
Well, deplatforming's another difficult topic, isn't it? Because even I don't know where I stand on this. Because I know there are some people where like I see their content and I'm like, God, all they do is cause harm. I don't want to see it. I don't want other people to see it. And like the emotional part of me is like, I wish someone would take their platform away from them. Just take their phone away from them. Don't let them tweet anymore. Don't let them post. Stop them making videos. But I think that needs to be done on more of a personal level, if that makes sense. So in that case, I feel like it's going to sound really silly, but what I'm actually wanting is for like a friend or family member to step in and say, calm down, let's take this away, let's get you some help, rather than, for example, YouTube to step in and say, you're not allowed to post here anymore. Because YouTube is a big company, and what right do they really have to say over like whether someone's, for example, mentally well enough to be posted on their platform? Because they don't know the individuals. And again, I think finding these boundaries about what is okay and what isn't okay is very difficult.
I don't think Shane Dawson should be deplatformed. I feel like I don't even think he's a bad, to be honest with you. I don't think I would assume that's the reason why people would want to deplatform. I mean, he did a lot of distasteful videos, and I don't know if he's still demonetized, but I know he was demonetized for a while. So I feel like he was punished. It's not my place to say whether it was enough or not enough punishment, but I definitely think that deplatforming him would be too much punishment, you know? It's like, why? People can't have a voice, like it's not like he's actively doing the same kinds of videos either. You know, he's doing like these ghost hunting or whatever videos. So okay, now if he steps out of line again, then all right, maybe if I take out his platform, slip it under the rug. You know, I don't know. But I feel like people are just too eager to deplatform just about anybody these days. It's weird. It's weird.
You know, kind of from like getting to know him more, like since doing a video with him and everything like that. The thing is, like, I feel like online a lot of people, like, they'll just kind of, you know, start seeing a lot of negative things about a person and start looking at things from like so many years ago. And I just think that that's like really unfortunate and sad, because people really can change and grow so much. And I kind of think, you know, it's like if we were to all have our lives just like so scrutinized and so like analyzed with like every single thing that we've said and done, and even things from like 10 years ago, then it's like you're gonna, I think, be able to really find something wrong that anyone has done. And we've all made mistakes and we've all said things that we'd probably never say now. So I like 100% think that he should, you know, definitely be given another chance for that. And just that he deserves like a lot of love and support, because I really feel like, you know, he's done a lot to help a lot of people. And since then, I think he's just really shown that he's really, really grown as a person. And yeah, you know, I just think it's really important for people to just like remember that none of us are perfect and we can all grow and like change as people, and not to just kind of like hold people's mistakes against them forever.
I don't think he deserves to be deplatformed. I don't think that Shane Dawson deserves to be deplatformed. I feel like everybody can reform to a certain degree. I feel like some of the stuff it is that he's done is disgusting and abhorrent and definitely overstepped the boundaries and the marks of certain things. But at the same time, do I believe that that's the person that he is now? Is he exhibiting that exact same behavior? No. I like to see a change in a pattern. And if I can't remember the last time that he acted like that, then that means that something's changing. To me, from like, I'm just an onlooker, just like everybody else to me. So do I think he deserves to be deplatformed? No. Do I think he deserves to be held accountable? Yeah.
It's pretty much impossible for me to be objective about her work because she was so disgustingly vile to me.
That's how narcissistic and this person is.
You know, you're putting a lot on Gabby Hanna there. You're putting the death of somebody on Gabby Hanna in a way.
The whole article next to it was about that girl, and she just looks at the picture, doesn't read the caption, or she does, she just doesn't care.
She's not going to see that, okay, Gabby, you've done this, this, and this wrong. When you go too far with people like Gabby Hanna, you're not going to get a win out of it.
But if you don't realize that you are a raging narcissist who once again made a child's death and a grieving mother about you.
She has done a lot of things with her platform that are reprehensible, but I also think that kind of being one of the most hated people on the internet, like, I think she probably doesn't have it that easy.
It's like, I can't escape these rumors, and like the one thing I love, like the one thing that like I thought was gonna save me, my one escape, that one thing is being taken from me.